What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's TJ. Welcome to Kayak USA. This week, we're jumping back on the John boat build that we've got going on the channel. If you are new here and you end up liking this video, be sure to go check out my homepage. We've got a ton of builds of boats, bass boats, John boats, kayaks, trailers, all kind of stuff. And we've got more coming in the future. So if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. We build cool stuff every Monday at 6. I upload something different, a different build all the time. And right now it is this bad boy right here. Today, we're finally gonna jump on the paint portion of this build. We've only got a little bit left. We've got some wiring to do and the paint to do and then the trailer, and then we're gonna take it out. This is gonna be an all-electric John boat. If you're new here, no gas motor on this boat, completely electric. We're building it out from scratch. This is an old I think I finally figured out that it's a 1974 model. So I've got some new decals coming for it. I got it registered this week. So today we're gonna tackle the paint job. We're gonna be doing a stencil paint job. I got some stencils from Red Leg, got all of our paint over here. Let me walk you through the boat before we get started on the paint though, because if you have been following along, you know that a lot has changed since the last time you've seen this boat. I've been adding some stuff and trying to take care of a lot of odd and ends that we need to tackle before I get to the paint, because today we've got to cover all this up, tape it down really good, and then paint the sides. So let me walk you through the boat really quick, show you all the cool stuff that I've added, a few things that I've changed, and what we've got going on for the wiring. I wanted to do the wiring in this video along with the paint, but the wire hasn't shipped out yet. So I've got everything here. I've got the lights, the switches, everything we need except for the wire. So that's gonna have to come later. Today we're gonna focus on the paint, but let me show you where we're at now, and then we'll start getting some paint on this boat. All right, so the last thing that you guys seen me do was install this decking and all of this carpet in the last video, and it turned out amazing. Now, since then, you can tell I've added a lot of stuff. I'm trying to get it ready so that, you know, it's not stretching this out to be a couple of months long of a build. I added the trolling motor. This is the trolling motor that was actually on this old John boat when we picked it up. I wired it up. It seemed to work like it should. It ran really well. So I took it outside, cleaned it up, and it actually cleaned up pretty good. So I got it bolted on. We got the wires ran through the deck. This deck ended up being a lot bigger than I thought. I installed our nav light pole hole right here so we can pop that in. I've got a little quick detach Scotty mount system here. Now I can use this for a rod holder, but I mainly put it there for my DIY camera pole that I use. You know, it pops down in that on my Hobie. I'll be able to pop my pole here and get some footage whenever we do take this thing out and try it out. I added a few rod holders to the side. I'm gonna add one on this side too. As you can see, I've only got them on one side, but look how nice this turned out to be, you know, just carpet. This is, I know that a lot of guys now, you're going with all aluminum floors and the hydro turf, but this is kind of an old school boat, and I wanted to keep it old school, 1974 model. So we're gonna keep it traditional with the carpet and the wood. But I added the rod holders here. I'm gonna get another set and put them over here so that I can double up my rod storage back here. As you can tell, I painted the pedestals under the seats black. Now, originally, I was gonna paint them to match the side of the boat, which that's what we're doing today, all that camo paint you see over there. And we're gonna camo the side of the boat, but the camo that I'm shooting for the boat is more like this stuff here. It's gonna look a lot more like that Bottomlands camo by Mossy Oak. And since our seats that we got from bassboatseats.com, they're Realtree, I didn't want to have the Realtree camo seats sitting on top of Mossy Oak Bottomlands. I felt like it would clash a little bit, so I went ahead and painted them black. I think it's gonna look really good. It looks a lot more professional, I think, that way, and a lot more cleaner too, because it's gonna break up that camo really good. And then we're gonna have a nice, hopefully, by the end of this video, we've got a nice Mossy Oak Bottomlands looking camo down the side. What else did I add? I added these TracPaks from Yakattack. I've got one here on this pedestal, one on this pedestal, and one on the back wall. I'll show you what we're keeping the one on the back wall. I've got it bolted to the transom back there, but it's gonna be good for stuff like that we need around our motor back here. But these things are gonna be really handy because they're out of the way. When you sit in the seat, your legs go over them because they kind of tuck back behind you. but it's just a quick and easy way to add storage to your boat, you know. These aren't just for kayaks, so I thought that was pretty cool. We can actually pop them off, and then when we get to the river, I can snap them on there. But I put one just at the feet of both seats. I've got my Yeti here, and I do have it installed, but what I ended up using was some of these little bitty catch mounts. You see what I got there? Hopefully y'all can see that. I just put one in the floor because it's kind of a flush mount. By the time you screw it down, it kind of pulls it down into the carpet, and it locks my cooler into place, so we've got a little extra storage to bring food with us. And I think it looks really good. I think it's gonna fit the look of the boat. It's nice and simple, nice and out of the way, and if we don't wanna take it, like if we need the room here, we just won't take it. We can pull it out, and there's nothing left there except for those two little bitty catch T-tracks that we've got there. Moving on back, first I want to explain something about these pedestals, why I love these pedestals. I got a lot of comments and questions about them because they don't really make them like this anymore. Most John boats come with the benches that are molded in, and they just run straight across, but I've always loved these old school pedestals because can you notice that you don't see any batteries on this boat right now, like none. They're completely hidden, and it's because they go under, well, I got this one out, but they go under there. So up under this seat, you can see I've already got the battery box there. That is where our Power Queen 100 amp hour battery goes. It bolts in there, the wires go in the floor, completely hidden, and that's what we're gonna be running our trolling motor with. But you'll never know the battery's there. It keeps the weight of the battery at the center of gravity of where the person is sitting also. So it evenly distributes the weight across the boat, which is really cool. And if back here is the same way, I do have this battery back here, I'll show you. There's the Newport Vessels battery, completely hidden, locked down up under the seat. And that's what we're gonna be running is the NT300. And it's really cool. I didn't have to do anything special for this one. The wire just comes straight out, hooks to the motor. Didn't have to drill any holes or anything. I just mounted a plate in there, like a battery tray, and stuck it in there and strapped it down. While we're back here, I'll show you the wall. I've got a paddle clip back here so we can throw our paddle on. I've got a couple of rod tubes there. I've also got some, did y'all see the rod tubes up front? I'll show you really quick. I had them here, and I figured they'd look good right there. And once we get to running down the river, it's a quick place to stick the net or the fishing poles. And then we've got that whole cubby there for life jackets and throw cushions and stuff like that. But back here, I've got the paddle. Like I said, it's just a little cheap paddle from Amazon. Let me spin to this side so you can kind of see. This is kind of the cockpit area, and it's gonna end up being like where everything is stored basically. So I got a little Yakattack track system here with a phone holder. I've got a little cubby hole right there from Yakattack so you can drop lures that you cut off and stuff in there instead of throwing them in the floor. I've got our nav lights mounted, the fire extinguisher mounted, and then here's another TracPak that I was telling you about. And this one, let me spin this way so you can see it. This one is gonna be mainly for like the boat registration, the kill switch for the motor, maybe a prop tool and stuff like that. But I figured it was a nice little spot to stick that there to have what I may need, you know, an extra kill switch and stuff for this old NT300. That way, if something happens and I lose one, we're not stranded out there. I've got a little, kind of like a little toolbox right here on the back of the boat. I installed a bilge pump. It runs straight out, and I did drill me a hole in the transom for it, but I flush mounted the little exit port right here. So if we take on water, we get caught in rain, we're gonna be able to flip a switch on, pump water from the bottom of the boat up and out. I did add some marine mat to the floor back here because this is mainly gonna be for this right here. So like this is my tackle box when I go fishing on somebody else's boat. But if you use it in the boat, I'm trying to do all this with one hand. I've got a nice little spot to hold the tackle box. How cool is that? And it's not in the boat in the way. We can still run. I think this boat is gonna fish really well. A lot of people have been asking me, you know, if I'm concerned about the weight of the wood being in this boat. The wood did add a lot of weight to this boat, But I found over the years these smaller, this is only a 32-inch wide boat in the bottom, or 36. And I found over the years these smaller John boats, the weight actually helps more than it hurts. I mean, you don't want to add too much weight, but if you make these really small ones too light, you can't really walk around in them because they're so wobbly. They're not, they need that weight in the bottom of the boat to make it stable. So I think this is going to be a pretty stable boat for the size that it is anyway. Where were we? Back here in the back. So yeah, I got the bilge pump. I've got the Yakattack TracPaks here. That's basically about it. And I'll give you a kind of a sneak peek of the wiring system that we're going with. So I've got some ports that we're going to be adding. I got some little lights that we're going to be adding. I'm really just waiting on the spool of the wire. Here's our control panel, and I'm going to flush mount this. That's why there's a spot right here beside these rod tubes. I'm going to be flush mounting this control panel right here, right kind of by the cockpit of the seat. And if you see, let me see if I can prop it here so we can walk to the other side. This is the driver's seat. I've got access to the fire extinguisher, the motor, the toolbox area, the paddle if I need it. And then our switch panel is going to be mounted right here in the wall, aimed right at the driver, so I'll be able to control the navigation lights, the interior lights, the bilge pump. Anything we need that's electronic is going to be wired to that switch, so I'll just be able to flip it on. And I'll be able to hide all the wires really well up under this platform that we got built. So now you guys are completely caught up to where I am on this project, and it's time to get back to work on it. I've been waiting on paint forever, so I'm gonna show you really quick the stencils that we're going with. I ordered these, I've actually got them off Amazon, but they come from a company called Red Leg, and they make these camo stencils, and they've got several different patterns. The one we're going with is gonna resemble, like I said, the mossy oak bottomland, but it's not called that on their website. It's called OT2, if I can open one up. Kind of want to show you what they look like, and I have never done this before. There's a lot of videos on YouTube of guys using their stencils though, and I think it's time consuming, so I think if you take your time and go slow, it'll turn out good, and that's kind of my plan. So the company is called Red Leg, and this Red Leg camo, I'll link it in the video description. I'll also link this Amazon link to this exact stencil if you guys are interested. I'll have to add their logo to my board there. But the camo I went with, like I said, is called OT2, and it's only 2 stencils. You got your big blotchy stencil that goes on first after the base coat, and then the more, if you guys can see the front of the cooler there, the black lines that go up and down. And they call it the OT2, but it should look a lot like mossy oak bottomland. That's the goal. And even though it's 2 stencils, it's still 3 colors, and that's why it's gonna take so long to do this project. And it's early this morning, so I was hoping to get out here, film this part with you guys. I'm gonna roll the first coat on, and the colors I'm going with, well, let me show you a stencil. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is what the stencils look like. So there's our first stencil. It's the blotchy, more big fat, pattern, and you don't want to crease this up. I've been scared to death. I've had this stencil here for about a week now, and I've just been worried that I was going to crinkle it somewhere. And then the other stencil is going to be for the black lines. It's this bad boy right here. And they're pretty big. And I will say, a lot of YouTube videos that you watch of guys doing these stencils, it's usually the first thing they do to their boat. They haven't already built the boat out like I've already done to this one. So we're not gonna be able to flip this boat upside down like you're gonna see most of the guys do and kind of lay it upside down and stencil the boat and then you flip it back over. We're gonna do this one just like this. I've got some plastic and some tape, and I'm gonna tape off the whole top cap of this boat. Everything, I'll be able to do a nice clean straight line, I think, and then plastic cover the top so we don't have to worry about any overspray getting on our stuff. And we should be good to go. I'm gonna wheel it out to the middle of the garage. The colors that I'm going with, and they're not gonna be exact to the mossy oak bottomlands, but they're gonna be close. So I ordered this flat khaki Rust-Oleum camouflage paint. This is the flat khaki. It's really, really, really close to the background color of that mossy oak that you guys can, hopefully y'all can see on that cooler there. But it's the flat khaki. I've got 2 quarts of roll-on because we're gonna try to roll most of this boat because I want a thick coat on the bottom. If you can also tell, the boat is stripped down. I spent out here yesterday probably 4 hours scrubbing this whole boat with soapy water, and I wet sanded it with some Scotch-Brite, but it's ready for paint. I'm gonna go over it with acetone before I paint today, but other than that, it's ready to go. All the stickers have been removed and everything. I also got 2 spray cans of the flat khaki that match the roll-on, because once it's taped off, I'm gonna spray all the handles, all the places I'm not gonna be able to get a roller or a brush really good. I might even go ahead and dust over all of the rivets and get a good base of this on there, let it dry, and then when we roll it, everything should blend really well. And I showed you on last week's video, which was the video with the pontoon boat. If you watched it, you got to see a sneak peek of all this. But I also ordered this flat army green originally. I'm not gonna use this. Because I thought online it looked like the same green as the mossy oak that I wanted. And then when it got here, I found out in that video, because it got delivered while we were filming, and I held it up and it's not the right green. So this will be used on a different project in the future, I'm sure. My wife picked this up for me yesterday. She was at Tractor Supply and I told her to check to see if they had any kind of olive green color spray paint there. This is called camouflage spray paint. It is an oil base, it's a flat finish, and it's called olive drab green, kind of like a military green. It's pretty close to the green in the mossy oak. It may be a little bit more greener than their brown is, or it's more brown in their picture, but this is what we're going with. I think it'll look good. It's gonna match the seats pretty good. It's gonna be a background color because the black goes on top of it. And then for the black, I just got some flat black Rust-Oleum. So the first thing we're gonna do today is I'm gonna wheel this out to the middle of my garage because I am gonna be painting in here today. Tape it off, plastic the top of it really quick, and I'll kind of show you guys. I'm not gonna make you watch me paint everything, but when we get to the stencil part, I will show you my learning process because this is the first time I've ever done it. I've got a bunch of tape that I'm gonna try to use. I picked up some Scotch rough surface extra strength tape. I'm gonna try to use the tape around the edges of the stencil. The bad thing about the stencil is like you have to pace yourself. You can't put the stencil on the side of the boat, spray it, and then pick it up and move it to the next side because the stencil has to overlap and you don't wanna touch the wet paint that you just put on the boat. And the stencil is also gonna be covered in wet paint. So you gotta let both things dry before you put it next to it. So once the stencil's dry, I'll just go to a different part of the boat, hold it up and do the, hopefully it works out. Like I said, first time I've ever done it. I've got some plastic to wrap the boat. I've got a couple of different rollers. I've got a microfiber and a foam. We're gonna test out and see which one does the best. I'm thinking the little foam roller is probably gonna do the best. Got some little cheap brushes. Let me get to taping this boat up and we're gonna start throwing some paint on this thing. All right, y'all, I've switched to a GoPro since I'm fixing to be spraying some paint in here. I don't want to risk getting my other camera all painted up, but I've got the tape on, as you can see. Let me show you really quick. Taped up the top. That took way longer than I thought, but I was being a little more picky than I probably needed to be. But I'll show you under here. So since this lip sticks way out, remember we painted this whole thing with the bed liner, and I brought the bed liner down to here. We're actually gonna be painting over this bed liner. So the camo should run all the way up into here. I painted a good line, plus that gives me a good spot to conceal a seam. Like you'll never be able to see where the black and the camo color meet. Now I'm fixing to wipe the whole thing down with some acetone. There's the back. Now this, remember we did spray after I did all the welding and the aluminum repair to the transom. Remember this was just like Swiss cheese back here, and I put a new plate on. We used a street sign, I think, or a speed limit sign to fix that. If you didn't see that video, be sure to check it out if you want to see how I repaired that transom. But that's why that's green, because after I repaired it in that video, I kind of sprayed it over. I'm going to scuff it up a little bit, acetone it down. I'm wiping this side down. This boat came a whole lot cleaner than I thought. Well, I'm kind of blocking my light there. Look how clean this boat came. I know there's gonna be a group of guys in the comments telling me that I shouldn't have painted it. It's a 1974 and it's never been painted. It's kind of rare. And it's decent looking aluminum. There's still a lot of dents and dings and stuff. Like you can see where it's hit stuff before, but overall, 50 years old, it's not bad. Not bad at all. I'm gonna use this here first before I break out the actual quartz. And I'm gonna get everywhere that I need to get, like up under that lip. I should be able to spray up under that lip. Around the front there, I should be able to spray that really well. And just get like the handles and stuff like that. With this, I only got 2 cans. I probably only need 1 can to do what I'm doing, but it'd also be good to have this for touch-ups. After I'm done with this base coat and it's drying, I can, you know, check on spots and stuff. And then we'll move on to the stencil stuff, but I'm sure it's gonna take a while for this to dry. My plan is to put the base coat on and then probably open up all these garage doors, let the heat come in and kind of heat it up. It's gonna be 90-something degrees today, so it should heat up pretty quick and dry. I'm just using regular old acetone. I keep it here for projects. It shouldn't take a whole lot, and this acetone dries really quick. It's really good to prep this aluminum with acetone before you paint it. It'll help it stick a lot better. I'm gonna try to keep it off of the black because I don't want to be pulling paint off and then rubbing it all over the boat. I bet if I was to not, like if I wasn't gonna paint this, I bet this boat, the aluminum is good enough after I wet sanded it and seen how it kind of polished up a little bit in spots. I bet this could have been buffed out and polished to a high shine on this old boat. But I think it's just got too many little dents and dings. The camo's gonna do good, like all of this. These are all dings and dents and scratches and gouges. That camo would do a really good job at hiding stuff like that. It's not a bad color. I think I'm gonna like it. And remember, I'm only spraying where I'm not gonna be able to roll really well. All right, it's time to turn the fan on so I don't sit here and breathe in all this. Get this dusted over, let it dry, and then we'll start rolling it on. All right, all the kind of spraying around the edges and stuff is done. I wanted to show it to you really quick because I've got all the garage doors open. I don't usually spray in here with the garage doors shut like that, but for those of you that are concerned, I've got an attic fan in my ceiling out here in the garage, and I'm able to kick it on, and if I just crack my doors, it pulls air straight in like really hard from the outside, and it sucks it up through the attic. So I was able to do this little bit of spraying with the attic fan on with the door cracked. The only downfall is once I do that, it sucks out all of my air conditioning. So I had it nice and cool in here this morning, but I wanted to get this done. Now we can shut everything up and I can roll the paint on and I don't have to worry about fumes like that. But let me show you the boat with the doors open because you can really see really good now how the base color is gonna look. So here's the base color, and I kind of just went around all the edges. It's still wet in places, but as you can see, I did all the rivets. I got up under that lip that we wouldn't really be able to get to with the roller. All the rivets around back here. The lighting's weird back here, but you can see I did the handles, sprayed that up really good. And it took about 1.5 cans to do all that. The lighting's real bad on this side because of the doors open, but you can kind of see what I was going for. I wanted to use the spray to get just about everywhere that I couldn't get with a roller. Not to mention the spray, I'm able to do triple coats. Like that's 3 coats that I've done. I went around and sprayed it. By the time I got back to one side of the boat, the other side was already tacked up and ready for a second coat. So I sat on that little stool right there and I just rolled myself around with a spray can and just did it all. Within about 30 minutes, I was able to do all the spraying and get it knocked out. So now I'm gonna pour me some of the color out of the quart over there into the roller. I think I'm gonna try the foam brush first and see how it does. I want this to be thick because I'd like to only do 1 coat if it's gonna go on thick enough, but I may do a couple of coats, and once it's dry, we can finally begin the process of doing the camo on it. But let me kind of mix this up or stir it up. I got some stir sticks. Make sure it's thinned out really good. We're gonna start rolling it on. It's the same color. I was scared I was gonna open it up and be a different color than the spray we just sprayed, but it's the same exact paint. It's just in a quart, so it should match perfectly. Here's the foam rollers. Just give these a shot. Jeez. I don't know, I did watch one video where the guys like, don't use the foam rollers from Walmart, get them from Harbor Freight. These come from Walmart. I'm gonna give it a shot. I guess I'm just gonna pour the whole quart in there. I got 2 quarts. We're gonna see how far this first quart gets us. I bought 2 because it comes in a 2-pack and you get it cheaper that way. I'm bad about doing stuff like that. That's why I have stuff crammed everywhere, because when I do projects I always get extra stuff but I always have stuff to use for other projects that's already here, so it works out pretty good. All right, let's go roll some of this on and see how it's gonna do with this roller, if I don't spill it on the way there. It is done. Well, the base layer is done anyway. Let me set this stuff over here. Let me show you how it looks. Now, I love the color of this base color that we just put on, and I was almost tempted to just say, you know what, I'm not even gonna camo it because this looks so good. Let me show it to you. I love the khaki color of this boat. There's actually a lot of like G3s that are built out there that are this same exact tan color. It's like a flat desert tan color. Hopefully the light's right. I've got the doors open, so this stuff will dry up pretty quick and we can start doing the stenciling. You really won't be able to see much on this side. I used about almost a full quart. I've got maybe a couple of ounces left in the can, but I did end up breaking out a brush to get around all the handles and stuff like that. I might, I put it on thick. I keep telling myself I might go back and touch it up a little bit here and there, but it really doesn't need it. Here's, yeah, there's not much left in there. There's just probably a paintbrushes full. I guess I could actually show you what I'm doing. I still got the GoPro on, so the audio is probably not perfect because I've been out here painting. I don't want my other camera out here right now, but we're fixing to start the stenciling. I'm gonna let this set up for about an hour. After about an hour goes by, I'm gonna break out the stencils. I'm gonna get some tape. I want it to make sure it cures on the boat, this base layer, because we've got to stick tape on the base layer with the stencils, and I don't want to be peeling off this paint because that would just ruin my day. If I stuck a stencil on there and then peeled it off and it peeled the paint that we just spent the last few hours painting on here. But it turned out good. I really, really, really like it. Like I said, if it wasn't for me already having the stencils here and making up my mind, because I think that if I was to just put the decals on this, it would look really good. What sucks is we're not gonna be able to take off this plastic or any of this tape to do the full reveal until I'm done with all the stencil work. But it should be a cool moment. As long as the stencil does right and I'm able to figure this out and actually do it, it's gonna be pretty cool. All right, whew, that sun is bright. All right, it's been at least an hour, actually about an hour and a half since we finished it on the base coat. And it's nice and dry now. Let me show it to you. This color looks amazing. I got a fan going, as you can tell, with all these doors open, and man, this color looks good. I'm so scared that I'm gonna stick tape on here though, and it's gonna mess it up, but I don't think it's gonna come off. I cleaned it, I prepped it, I've done everything I was supposed to do, and it's definitely dry. I'm gonna show you guys what I'm doing up close, and then I'm just gonna start spraying. So here's the problem. See how it comes up off of it? You want the stencil to be tight against it. So I'm either gonna have to just put me some gloves on and hold each splotch up like that, but then when we get down to this, you can't just mash it down. See how it wants to, because there's that rib right there. So that's why I was using the arrow. There's the arrow. I was using this arrow here to put in the crease to give me a good flat spot. So this is gonna be time consuming. And not to mention, after I do this spray, I can't just hop from here to here and work my way down, because this has to dry and the stencil has to dry. And then whenever I paint back here towards the back, I need to tape off this part of the boat so that I don't overspray onto this, because we still got to stencil up and paint the back side of this too. Well, I opted for the no glove thing, and holy cow, this is gonna be a job. I guess let's just see how it turned out. There's gonna be overspray. See the overspray here? But you know, all in all, I might be able to touch that up, but I'm also seeing overspray. Look at this line of overspray here. I'm gonna try to touch all that up. I may need to add tape to the edges because I wasn't thinking about it going that direction. It probably looks good from there, but you can definitely see the overspray where you can't really push the stencil down all the way. Oh. Yeah, this is gonna take forever. I'll see you guys in a few hours. All right, y'all, little update here. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 on each side so far of just the green, and it is kicking my butt. I'm gonna show you what it looks like right now. It doesn't look great. There's gonna be a ton of touching up that I'm gonna have to do, but I have to keep telling myself that this is just camouflage on an old John boat, so I'm not trying to be too picky, but there is the angle of the boat and the little rib going down the side makes it not, I can't hold it flat on every one of the little things, and it's making a little bit of overspray, but let me just show you what it's looking like. I'm gonna continue on. Once I get the green down both sides, the front and the back, I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll probably get a little paintbrush with some of the tan and touch up some of the heavy overspray, but other than that, we'll move on to the black after this. Let me show you what it looks like. So from a distance, it doesn't look that bad at all. But if you get up close, you can see the overspray and the little crack here. I mean, it's not horrible. And I think once I touch up, like over here where I tried to do that wipe thing with the acetone, that just made it worse. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just gonna go back. Anything that's like really heavily oversprayed or a bad spot, I'll touch up. But I'm rotating sides because, you know, this will be wet after I spray it and I'll have to go to the other side. So both sides are about halfway down the side of the boat anyway. Here's this side. You can see some heavy, but right here is where I'm talking about. I'll be touching that up. But I'm just gonna keep going. I'm doing, like I said, one side at a time. I'm setting the stencil over here. I haven't cleaned the stencil off yet. I'm just letting it dry. It is currently, I've got the doors open, 93 degrees in here. But I don't want to do this, you know, with the AC on because I do want this to dry. So here's the stencil. I just bring it over here. I'm kind of laying it in the sun where I got this bay door open, letting it dry up pretty good. And then I'll take it back over there, stick it on the boat and continue on. Part of me is upset because this did look really good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really like that tan color. I know the lighting in here is bad to show it right now. So I'm really hoping that when I get done, this is gonna look like Bottomland's Camo because this looked really good. It looked nice and clean. Worst case scenario, I do all this, and if I don't like it, I can go back over it and just paint it that khaki color. I don't think that's gonna happen though. I think I'm gonna take my time and do this right. I think when I'm done, I'll be happy and I'll be glad that I went with the stencils, but it is a job. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Usually, you know, it's a job. I do see why these guys are flipping these boats upside down, because if the boat was upside down, the stencil would lay better. Like right now, when I hang the stencil up at the top, it just hangs like way off the boat and I'm having to push it up. But if the boat was upside down, you would stick it on the bottom of the boat and it would kick out, so it would hold it a lot better. So I'm fighting gravity here, but it's working. I'm gonna keep putting along, and when I get to the black part, I'll hop back on the camera and show it to you guys. All right, good morning, guys. Yes, it is the next morning. I was out here really late. Let me turn this phone off. I was out here super late last night. I say super late, probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock, buttoning up this stencil. There's still a good bit of overspray, but from a distance of like 2 or 3 feet away, it looks really good. Let me show it to you. Now, this is just the first stencil. I don't know how much I actually got filmed last night because it's at a certain point, I just turned the camera off and went to town on this thing, just moving the stencil, waiting on it to dry, and then moving the stencil and just working my way all the way around the boat. But let me show you what it looks like now this morning. We're gonna start, the black stencil is probably gonna go the same way. It's early right now, it's like 7:30 in the morning, so I'm gonna try to spend the whole day out here knocking out this black stencil, and it's gonna be harder than this first stencil, I think, but we're gonna get it done. We're in deep now, so let me show you what it looks like. I'm actually gonna attempt, and golly, yeah, I can see a bunch of fingerprints. I started getting a little bit careless as it got later last night, so you can see green fingerprints on there, but I'm gonna use a sponge brush after I'm done with the black, and I'm gonna roll around on the cart around the boat with a little sponge brush and try to touch up any of the overspray spots that just look too bad. But from the distance of a couple feet, it doesn't look too horrible. Let me see if you can see this side over here. Here's the back. I think I'm gonna put one more spot right here. It was hard to maneuver it around the back because you couldn't get around the handles with a stencil to hold them flat. So I may end up having to cut the stencil up at the end and add spots. This light may not, let me see if I can roll the boat for y'all some. I love being able to roll it around my shop on that kayak cart. But here we go. It is not perfect by no means. Man, I didn't realize how many green fingerprints I had on this boat. Oh, that's gonna be a lot of touch-up work, but we'll get it right. Now, I am going to attempt to do this black stencil this morning. It's gonna be a lot more complicated, I think, because of how flimsy it is, because it's just a bunch of slits, as you can see. Just to kind of show you what I mean. So the other one, it had the bigger holes, but I feel like it was, they were divided enough that I think it kept them from flopping around. This one, when I push it up on here, it's gonna wanna pop every little bitty slit off the boat. And that's because there's a lip right here that I'm taping, that I'm taping to. If I went lower, I could probably cut this stencil lower in a straight line and then tape it at this area here. I'm gonna do some troubleshooting before I start spraying here in just a minute and try to figure out the best course of action for this stencil. Man, I'll be glad when this is done. I didn't think it was gonna be as bad as it is. It's not horrible. I think if the boat was flipped upside down and I didn't have to fight gravity, like when I tape it up like that, that's how far it wants to hang off the boat. Like I said earlier, if the boat was upside down, it'd be the opposite way. It would be laying on the boat like this. So if you're gonna do this, don't do like I do. Don't do it after the boat is built. Do it so that you can flip the boat upside down. Way too much overspray. All right, so the first one I'm not too happy with, but I've done the second one on the other side. I'm having to rotate back and forth like I did with the green ones. I'm gonna show them to you, and then I'm just gonna get to work on this thing because this ain't easy. Let me show it to you. So here's the first one. And excuse the noise, I do got a fan trying to keep it dry so I can move along with this project a little quicker, but look at all the overspray down here. I'm gonna attempt to fix all of this once it's dry. This is just happening because it's really hard to hold each little sliver up and protect the other slivers from getting the paint to blow in kind of at a different angle, and it causes a lot of shading. I think once it's done and I'm able to touch up some of the, the worst stuff, like right here is really bad. If I can touch that up, I think it's gonna turn out okay. The other side I just finished. Let me turn this fan off so I don't have to yell the whole time. I just did this side, and I think it turned out a little bit better. There's still some overspray, and it's still wet too, so it looks a little weird right now, but I think it's gonna be okay. If you look at it just as a whole, like, I don't think it looks horrible. And once I get it to there, and I cover from the arrow up and then right below the arrow, I pull it out, I unstick it because the arrow is really sticky. And I'm going back in just above where it was because I have to paint where the arrow was blocking the paint across the stencil there. If you don't do that, it'll leave a straight line where the arrow was. I pull back, and I'm gonna tuck it right up under that little ridge. The ridge is the main problem. If the boat was completely flat, it wouldn't be as bad. Thank you, Lord, baby Jesus. This paint job is complete. I've been letting it dry for a couple of hours now, cleaned up the garage so that I can set it back over here where it goes, and it is time to unwrap this bad boy. I'm gonna take you guys off the tripod and walk you around after I get it unwrapped, but I've been wanting to do this part ever since we put it on there because I wanna see what the black lip looks like up against the camo. I guess I'll do that side first so that y'all get to see it at the same time I do. I think that black next to that khaki color is gonna really pop. Oh, I'm so glad this paint is done. That kind of kicked my butt, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it turned out pretty good. I've been pretty hard on myself about the paint job the whole time because of the overspray, but all in all, I think it looks really good. I didn't have to do a whole lot of touching up. I touched up a little bit with the sponge brush, but not a whole lot. This tape job did really well too. Man, I like that black against the top. Now there is a definite line here where the camo starts and then that gap of khaki color up against this. The stencil, you know, is only so thick at the top. You can't cut it right down to the actual stencil holes or anything or it won't do right. So there is a little gap there. I did for a little while think about cutting the stencil up into small pieces and kind of filling this in up here. And I didn't want to risk messing up, you know, what I had already got going. I may have to open up these garage doors so that you can see it a little bit better, but if I get down here, I think the lighting's pretty good. So what do you guys think? Does it look like Bottomland? So here's what we were shooting for. And yes, the green is completely different. I can see that now, but I think the actual Bottomlands has a lot more brown in those little blotches than this green. But the green doesn't look bad. I mean, the green doesn't look bad at all. And you can tell the black stencil, yeah, there's a lot of shading going on in there, but it got better as I worked my way down the boat. Matter of fact, the very first one was my worst one. I did some touching up and you can tell that I touched it up if you look really close. But all in all, this thing looks really good. Here's the back side. I may open up these garage doors to get some better lighting in here in just a minute. Show you guys the other side. And I'll show you how the stencils look when I was done with the whole paint job. Let me wheel it over here. Here's this side here. Not too bad. And even though the seats are real tree, the colors are pretty good. It's a pretty good match with that khaki color, I think. And I got the stencils hanging up here, so that's what they look like when I was finished. And you can tell that I didn't even use from there down of the stencil. It kind of just hung below the boat. But they're still good stencils. I'm gonna let all this, you know, dry on there pretty good and get all the black paint off and then get all the green paint off of this one, roll them up and put them up just in case I ever do this again. But it's gonna be, if I ever do another boat like this, it's gonna be a long time. All right, guys, I have stretched this video out way longer than I should have, but we got the paint job done. I'm happy with it. I would rather carpet this boat again, I'll tell you that, than have to do that paint job again. It was tough, but it's done. Now we can move on to the electrical. Everything is pretty much already placed where it's gonna go for the electrical. I'm just waiting on the wire. So once it gets here, we'll run all the wire. I'll add my little lights and stuff in here. We'll knock that out in a video. We'll pull the trailer in. We're gonna overhaul the trailer, put the boat on it, and then we're gonna do a video where we take this thing out, do a speed test with that NT300, slime the boat for the very first time. I want to go out and catch some crappie on this thing and just see how it handles, see if there's anything I need to change on this thing. So stay tuned for that. If you're new to my channel and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit thumbs up, and I will catch you guys next Monday at 6 o'clock. Peace.